freak, so it drives me crazy to start anything late or be late, and you all are on time, and you shouldn't be penalized. So we'll go ahead and start. Thank you for coming tonight. I know we had to reschedule this because of Ian, which I'm thrilled we didn't get hit. We certainly feel for all of those south of us who are trying to rebuild, and they're going to have a long, long haul. So we were very blessed. You don't wish it on anybody else, though. Yeah. So I'm Frank Hibbard, the mayor. Joel Castelli is here, who is our public communications director, who helps me with all things technology, because otherwise I'll be stuck. I'm going to go through a bunch of slides and just tell you a little bit about the entire project, and then we'll just open it up to questions. So this is a rendering of the two 27-story foot towers on the City Hall site. This is a picture of the hotel that is going to be on the Harborview site. So I'm going to give you a quick overview. The City Hall site is going to have two 27-story towers, 600 total units between the two. There will be restaurants on the ground level of that project. And then on the Harborview site, there's going to be a 158-room boutique hotel that's 13 stories tall. And then there's, to the south of that, is going to be a banquet facility that can seat up to 1,000 people. All of the buildings you will see are oriented so they are perpendicular to Osceola Avenue and also to the waterfront and Coachman Park. That's important because it's going to give view corridors from Osceola at ground level to be able to know that Coachman Park and the waterfront is there. If you ever go to South Beach, one of the complaints that we get is the fact that there's a canyon effect. And if you're driving south on Gulfview down to the Sand Key Bridge, oftentimes you would not know, unless you're from here, that there is water behind all of those buildings. That will not be an issue here. So this is the hotel. And this is a look from the southwest. You see the hotel, and then on the right is the banquet facility. Hey, Joel, could you turn the lights down now that everybody's in? Might be a little bit clearer. This projector is not the strongest. So this is the Coachman side of the hotel. On top of the banquet facility is going to be a beer garden on the roof. There will also be a rooftop deck on the top of the hotel, along with restaurants and some retail. Wrong direction. They're on the left. Push the hole on the left. Please. That better?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So a little bit clearer. So there's going to be a lot of accessibility for both of the projects for all of the public. And I kind of look at Imagine Clearwater as, you know, phase one. This really is phase two to continue to activate downtown. This is looking from the hotel southwest, and you can kind of see the entryway into Coachman Park and the walkways that are going to be available to everybody from Osceola Avenue. Up in the top left corner, you can see Water's Edge. Water's Edge is the existing condominium that is 26 stories tall. This is a look at the two apartments towers from Osceola Avenue at the corner of Osceola and Pierce. And one of the things that the developers did, first of all, is continue the view corridors east to west, but also they created this little park-like area here because there's some specimen oaks that they wanted to retain. And then between Water's Edge and the North Tower, you're going to see where some of the restaurants and retail will be in the apartment buildings. A lot of people ask, why apartment buildings? Why not condominiums? So when we had appraisals done, we had two appraisals. They were both properties were appraised at highest and best use. Well, highest and best use gets you the greatest price, but ordinarily would be condominiums. If someone were to buy both of the properties for what would make them the greatest profit, condominiums would be the ticket. The problem with condominiums, and you see this on the beach and at Water's Edge, which is adjacent to this, a lot of times those buildings are vacant during the hot months. So people go up to North Carolina and Michigan and Maine to escape the heat. Whereas with the apartments, those are generally occupied year-round. And what we're looking for is to activate the downtown. And so apartments are critically important. This is a picture of the North Tower and the access point between Water's Edge and that North Tower, and you can see some of the retail that would be adjacent to that North Tower. So why are we going to referendum? The reason is twofold. First of all, in our charter, which is our Constitution, it is required that these parcels on the bluff go to the citizens to be approved to sell. The other reason is we are not selling these at auction to the highest bidder. We originally had an RFP, a request for proposal, back in mid-2021. And we got several proposals back. One of them was from a group that we thought was the best, and we negotiated with them, but the final product really was not what we desired. It had a large parking garage on the Harborview site that blocked views. They were mainly trying to draw people from the beach. It didn't have as much residential on the project, so we are not selling it to a highest bidder. We are selling it to two developers who have partnered, D'Annunzio Group, which is led by Dustin D'Annunzio, who is a local kid, grew up here, went to Clearwater Central Catholic, wrestled there, and then ultimately went to Harvard and wrestled in Harvard. Has done a lot of projects up in the Boston area, is doing projects down in St. Petersburg, and now hopefully in his hometown. The second partner in the entire project is the Gotham Group, which is a fifth-generation company out of New York City. They have a tremendous portfolio of rental buildings up in Manhattan. I was up in New York back this April for my real business that pays the bills. And I went up early because I wanted to see Gotham's products. And I went to Gotham West, and if you've ever gone down to where the aircraft carrier is on the river, you are about 2 blocks away from Gotham West. And it's a 1,000-unit development, absolutely beautiful. They do rooftop amenities for all of their tenants. They have common areas. The units themselves are very well built, very efficient. So I was impressed with them. That's the reason that we are going to referendum. It was voted unanimously by the City Council to go forward with this. I talked about the restrictions. This is the actual referendum question that you will see on the ballot. So by state statute, we are required to keep ballot questions to a maximum of 75 words. Hyphenated words count as 1. We were about to hyphenate words that have never been hyphenated before. We didn't do that. We got it in right at 75 words. And this is going to be the last item on your ballot on November 8th. So if you've already gotten your mail ballot, it's a 2-pager. It's the very last question because it goes federal, state, county, and then ultimately city. And for the city, this is the only thing we have on the ballot on this election because our elections for elected officials occur in March. So that's the ballot language. I'm not going to read it to you. You can check it out on your ballot or you can check it out on our website. So imagine Clearwater. We should be done by mid-June. We're planning to have a really large week of festivities leading up to 4th of July, something for 7-8 days. We'll have different concerts. There's a lot of different components for Imagine Clearwater, this overall view. And so on the south end, you've got surface parking. I don't know where the pointer is on this thing. Oh, that's not what I want to do. Sorry, everybody. Technologically challenged. No, there is one. Anyway, oh boy. There's a large water feature. We have a new marina building. There's going to be a new playground with interactive fountains. This is the playground. It kind of looks like a water park. This is just a composite material rather than having mulch. So it is not a water park, although we will have the largest interactive fountain in all of Pinellas County. And then in the middle of the park is the green. We have a grand staircase with fountains that cascade down from Osceola Avenue, where Cleveland used to be. And then on the north end is the amphitheater that will hold 4,000 undercover and up to 15,000 total. It's now pointed directly at the library so that it isn't pointed at the residential the way it originally was. So these are the two developers we're partnering with, Gotham, as I said, and the D'Annunzio Group. These are the two properties. So the old City Hall property that was built in 1966. Prior to that, it was a shuffleball board court. And then this is the old Harborview site. And then that upper box is the existing parking lot for the library. That is how patrons will access the parking garage for the hotel. They're going to have 169 spaces. Of those, 50 will be reserved for the city for overflow parking for the library. This again is an overview of Coachman Park, and you can kind of see that orientation of the buildings, that they're all running perpendicular to the waterfront. They pulled the northern building all the way to Osceola Avenue to not affect the views of Water's Edge. One of the things that is also in the proposal, we were originally going to have what's called a Bluff Walk that was going to go all the way from Pierce to Drew Street that ran along the bluff. That was eliminated via value engineering to reduce the price. So the Bluff Walk just runs on the northern portion of the property to the grand staircase. The developers have proposed an elevated bridge system that would connect the apartments to the hotel property and to the northern Bluff Walk. And they're willing to participate up to $2 million. We do not yet have a full design or cost on that, but it will be an agreement that will be come to terms between the city and Gotham should we move forward. So what's on the Harborview site? The Harborview site's a 1.3 acre site. I hit that. The two buildings that I talked about, the northern building is the 158 rooms, 13 stories. And then the southern building is 12,000 square feet, where you're going to have the banquet facility and some other commercial restaurant uses, along with the 169 spaces. Now, all of the spaces on both sites are going to be underground. Now, if you all know downtown Clearwater, which you do, it all sits on a bluff. And so one of the ways that the city is participating in the project is by infusing, it's a big number, $22 million to underground the parking. Now, when we build a parking garage today above ground, those parking spaces run $25,000 to $30,000 a space for structured parking garages today. Didn't used to be that astronomical, but that's what it is today. These are going to be more expensive because they're going to be undergrounded. And one of the issues there is you have to have great ventilation because, again, they are underground and you don't have the air flowing like in an above ground parking garage. This shows the Bluff Walk that's proposed. That's kind of that orange curved line. It shows all of Imagine Clearwater along with the 2 apartment towers and the hotel. You can see that there's good view corridors between the buildings. So on the City Hall site, it's 2.6 acres. We have given the developer latitude to build as few as 500 units, but as many as 600 units. There will be 600 parking spaces associated with that. Many people ask about the height. Downtown Clearwater does not have a height restriction. You can build to the moon. We have restrictions through what's called floor area ratios, which downtown is a 4.0, which is extremely dense. They are not going to reach those levels, but that is what's allowed. This shows the orientation of both of the towers in relation to water's edge. And so back to the financials. The developer is going to be paying $9.3 for the Harborview site and $15.4 for City Hall. Again, those were appraised as though they were going to be condos. So we are getting highest and best use. We are going to dedicate up to $1.5 million for impact fees through the CRA. The CRA is our community redevelopment area. And what that is partnership between the city and the county to redevelop certain areas that are struggling. Our CRA runs from Highland Avenue to the waterfront and from Chestnut to Drew. So this is money that is generated in the CRA and has to stay in the CRA. And then the $22 million is coming out of our parking fund. We did recently sell the parking garage on North Beach that is on Poinsettia, just a little bit east of Mandalay where Pelican Walk is. We received $12.5 million for that. We do have a very robust parking fund, and that is generally generated by tourists out on the beach. We also are going into a partnership with Peace Memorial Presbyterian Church. And if you don't know where Peace Memorial is, it is the pink church on the corner of Pierce and Fort Harrison, on the western, northwest corner of Pierce and Fort Harrison. And so they have sold us their back parcel of land. They used to have a building on it. It's been demolished. We are going to do a partnership where we are going to build a 550 space garage on that site that will also serve Coachman Park. They will have 125 spaces on Sundays and 17 spaces during the week for their staff. But it's going to be a nice addition to this area. And then, as I said, we could split the building of the pedestrian bridge. Developer has offered $2 million for that. The entire project is anticipated to cost $400 million. A very significant investment. Some people ask, why are we giving any incentives at all? Well, downtown Clearwater is far from being a proven market. I think we all know that. It would be easier probably to go to St. Petersburg or to Tampa, that is a proven market, and develop something. But Dustin D'Annunzio wanted to do something in Clearwater, and we have been looking for the right partners. We believe that they are. Important facts within the project. First of all, the state allows for a development agreement of up to 30 years. We're actually changing our ordinance because our development agreements in the city of Clearwater only last a maximum of 20 years, but we're going to increase it by ordinance up to 30. So the state allows us to have 30, and if both parties agree, that development agreement can be extended. So what does that mean? it basically limits who the project could ever be sold to for 30 years. It has to remain market rate apartments. And if it was sold, it has to go to companies of similar caliber to those that we have. There are some prohibitions of self-storage. I don't know why we would ever have self-storage on the bluff overlooking the water, but our attorney thought that was important. And no light assembly, no nightclubs outside of the hotel itself. And it also limits amplified music, which I always find amusing, seeing as it's sitting adjacent to our 4,000-seat amphitheater that is going to have significantly amplified music, but they will not be in competition with us. We are going to continue to give them ingress and egress, which means you can exit and enter the parking garage for the hotel. And then we are helping with the parking through that contribution from our parking fund. The buildings are required to be LEED certified, which is an environmental standard to make the buildings energy efficient to the silver standard, and they will also be required to have 5% EV installed chargers in the 600 units with up to 10% EV ready. We are going to be demolishing the City Hall in the next several months. It's scheduled for March. There are some environmental issues within that building with asbestos. And so we're going to be knocking down the building and remediating the asbestos. And then, as I said, on the design of the pedestrian bridge, we will share that. There is no obligation from either party to ultimately build it, and then we will help expedite the permits, because we want the project not to languish, but to get done as soon as possible. They have to break ground by December of 24 and be complete by December of 2027. That's it. About 22 minutes. So what questions can I answer? Yes, ma'am.
Two, basically.
Sure.
Is anything here dedicated to affordable housing? And is parking that the city will have access to going to be free or needed?
So the parking will, at this time, it's assumed to be free, the 50 spaces that are for the library. All of that has not yet been worked out, but we anticipate those will be free. 50, 50.
What's the current?
Hold on, let me finish with her questions. And then your first one, I've lost. Affordable housing. We did discuss adding affordable housing to this project, but these apartment towers are being built to a very high standard, very expensive. And it would have meant that we would have had to have given even a larger incentive to the developer. We talked about up to 10% of affordable housing, but we think we can have a greater impact on affordable housing at a different site. And you generally don't see affordable housing on waterfront property.
I'm thinking of the people who are going to be store clerks and waiters downstairs won't be able to afford to live there.
Well, we have two affordable housing projects that we're working on right now. One is on MLK and Washington Street, which is just one block south of Cleveland on MLK. And then another one is on Cleveland Street, just to the east of Missouri Avenue. It was two hotel sites. One was the Econo Inn and one was the Royal Palm, depending on how long you've lived here. We tore those down in about 2006. We bought them and tore them down because they were some of our highest police calls, but we had a lot of issues, from drugs to prostitution. So we bought those. Those are finally going to go into the affordable housing pool. But we think we're going to have over 250 new units if both of those projects move forward. Yes, sir.
About the library parking, what is the current capacity? You said 50 spaces in the garage.
Right. We have about 25 in that parking lot that's just been reconfigured. And then we're also going to have additional parking right there in Coachman Park.
Okay.
We're looking for additional places for parking in downtown, but we don't have anything on that northern end of Osceola yet. But we're looking at different opportunities.
Okay.
Other questions?
Frank, could you outline a bit about the downtown business community and the support that they have for the project?
So we have 3 to 4 groups, depending on how you look at downtown. We have the Downtown Clearwater Merchants Association, we have the Downtown Clearwater Partnership, we have Amplify, and then we have the DDB, which is a taxing agency and an organization that gives money. All 4 groups are obviously endorsing this and supporting it. The Tampa Bay Times came out last week and endorsed the project as an opportunity to move downtown Clearwater forward. We obviously have languished compared to St. Pete and St. Pete and Tampa. I'll tell you, this is what originally got me into politics. If you go back to 2000, we had a referendum. There was a developer named George DeGuardiola. He was from West Palm Beach. He was going to redo the entire Bluff area. He was going to buy Calvary Baptist, which ultimately moved anyway, City Hall and the Harborview site, build a movie theater, 7 restaurants, a convention center with a hotel, and he was going to redo Coachman Park with a new bandstand and put a marina in.